Hello there, Guardians. Epic99 here with another fun and exciting Destiny 2 build video for you. This time around, we have what I'm calling the Quantum Alchemist build. I think this is a really fun, unusual build that you don't often see in the game, especially on the Arc subclass. So I wanted to make a fun build with this, which I think is actually a pretty cool build. So if you're not familiar, the word quantum comes from sort of, well, for me, a show in the 90s that I loved called Quantum Leap. That was like my favorite show ever. They've recently rebooted it. It's also quite good. Quantum Leap is actually derived from the term quantum jump in physics, which is this idea of an electron changing phase, changing state. So in this build, we have the Quantum Alchemist, as we are constantly using electricity and electrons to change the state of the battlefield in our favor. So that's where the name comes from, the Quantum Alchemist. So let's jump right into it. First off, in this build, what we're centering the whole thing around is a weapon, the Forbearance. Now you can use a couple different weapons in this way, but Forbearance is really fun because it's a wave frame arc grenade launcher special weapon, and it's just very good. As you can see, I'm leveling mine to level 16 so I can get 2 perks on it that I want, Ambitious Assassin and Chain Reaction. But this whole build really centers around what this particular weapon archetype can do. I would recommend the Forbearance here, but you could certainly swap in like a Brigand's Law. Basically anything arc in your energy slot is what's going to make this build shine. So first off, super, whatever you like. They're both good in different situations. Storm Trance, great for ad clearing, fun to sort of roam around the battlefield. They are buffing roaming supers in Season 21, plus Season 21 should be getting some Arc Surge stuff. So I think Arc is going to be really, really good in Season 21. So make sure, Season of the Deep, so make sure you think about that as you choose this. And of course, Chaos Reach is sort of your single target DPS action there. So whichever one you need, choose at your discretion. As far as our abilities, we're going with Healing Rift. A central part of this build is the Healing Rift. Because of our exotic armor piece of choice and some of our aspects and fragments, we're always going to have Healing Rifts available, with a few other benefits as well. Burst Glide's great. I like Chain Lightning because it's got a little bit of a lower cooldown than Ball Lightning, and plus it jolts targets, and that's really important. Jolting really weakens your targets, and this melee ability jolts targets and then chains lightning to them, creating additional sets of chains if you are amplified. And we're going to be amplified constantly, all the time, with this particular setup. Grenade, again, we're not really speccing into grenades too heavily here, so I would say choose whichever grenade works for you. The Pulse Grenade is a really powerful and good one. I would definitely go for that. Flashbang can be good for blinding targets. Blinding targets is going to be really important for us here, but we're going to be doing a lot of that with other things, so I don't think that the Flashbang Grenade is necessary for this particular setup. So I would go with the Pulse to be able to throw out and deal some additional grenade damage as you're playing. Aspects, first one, Electrostatic Mind. Really important. It all kind of starts here. Electrostatic Mind allows us to create ionic traces when we defeat jolted or blinded targets with arc abilities. Defeating targets with arc abilities like grenades or Arc Soul creates an ionic trace, or defeating targets with who are jolted or blinded creates an ionic trace. So we're doing all of that all the time with this build. So we're creating ionic traces everywhere. Every single thing that is going on here is going to be an ionic trace. And then when we collect those ionic traces, we're becoming amplified. And that's really, really important. And that builds into our second aspect, Arc Soul. So Arc Soul, when you cast your Rift, you create a little Arc Buddy that does significant damage. They buffed this a couple seasons back. It's really good now. It can clear like mobs pretty efficiently. When allies pass through that Rift, they get an Arc Soul too. So you're helping your team as well. Plus, when you're amplified, which we're going to be all the time in this build, our Arc Soul is going to be this improved, sort of buffed out version. So these two things together really work well. And then our fragments just kind of continue to build on this idea of amplification, ionic traces, and suppressing targets. So the first one we've got is really important. This is probably the most important one. Arc weapon final blows have a chance to create an ionic trace. No, sorry, this is not the most important one, but this is a good important one. This is actually the swappable one. This is good for Ionic Trace creation. You don't necessarily need this because we're making a ton of Ionic Traces with Electrostatic Mind. So consider that. If you want more traces, they help to regenerate your ability energy. This can be good if you want more, but we're making a lot already. So you could swap this out for Spark of Resistance if you're in higher end content. Spark of Shock, again, this is just kind of icing on the cake. Arc Grenades jolt targets. Jolt makes targets weaker. It's a good debuff, and if we defeat jolted targets, we get an Ionic Trace. So when we throw the grenade and it lingers, anything that passes into that's going to get jolted, and that's really good. This one is the key thing for what I'm trying to do in this build. Spark of Beacons. While you are amplified, which, as if you recall, we're going to be amplified all the time because we're always getting Ionic Traces. If you're amplified, your arc special weapon final blows create a blinding explosion. So this is insane because when you shoot out, your grenade launcher, your what's the grenade launcher called? When you shoot out your Forbearance, you're gonna make everything blind, and they're just gonna kind of stumble around while your Arc Soul just destroys everything. They're not even gonna know where you are. So that's really cool. And then, if you didn't kill everything with that initial wave frame blast, if you pull out a kinetic, precision weapon and you get a precision kill, that mob who's blinded and gets hit with a precision kill creates a blinding explosion, and then it continues that cycle of just keeping everything suppressed and blinded all the time. It's really fun. It's really fun because my favorite kind of builds in this game are the ones that suppress and weaken enemies. So they're either blinded or they're suppressed or they're volatile or whatever. So I think this build does a really good job of that. And so this is the basic setup. And what makes all of this work is this Forbearance weapon, which we just covered, plus an unusual exotic choice, the Sanguine Alchemy, hence the name Quantum Alchemist. What this thing does is kind of nuts. Weapon kills while standing in any rift, pause the rift's countdown, extending its duration. Further kills maintain and extend the length of the pause. What that essentially boils down to is you are always going to have an unlimited rift. And what that means is an unlimited Arc Soul buddy. And if you're amplified, an unlimited amplified Arc Soul buddy. So you can literally, as you saw in some of the video clips earlier, kind of just stand in your rift, get kills with Forbearance, continue to reproc the rift, continue to reproc the Arc Soul. The Arc Soul has blasted out enemies. You're getting Ionic Traces. You're getting your abilities back. You're continuing to be amplified because every time you're amplified, every time you get an Ionic Trace, you're being re-amplified. And it's this constant loop of just like insane, you're just in your rift forever. So I think this is kind of an underrated piece of gear for Arc. Most folks like to run Fallen Sunstar, which is an excellent piece of gear. It really gives your abilities back super fast. We're getting abilities back super fast anyway here, and because of all the Ionic Traces that we're creating. And then on top of that, we're also getting this unlimited Rift and Arc buddy. By the time you're out of your Rift, if you need to move, your Rift is going to be up and ready to go again, and you can just pop it somewhere else and just continue this cycle over and over again. It's really kind of fun. As far as mods, I'll go through that real quick. So, special ammo finder for Forbearance. We want to make sure we have an ammo for that. Ashes to assets, just to get super a little bit faster whenever we throw that pulse grenade out. You might consider some other things here, but I think this is a good one. Arc Siphon, we want to create orbs of power so we can get armor charges. That's going to help us with getting our Rift back and surging our Arc weapon, and I'll show you those in a second. But Arc Siphon is really good here for that. So, Arc Siphon could be good. You could also do a Harmonic Siphon if you wanted to, if you needed some space, like if you needed some stats, you could change it to a Harmonic Siphon. So keep that in mind too. For the gloves, we're going with Arc Loader because Forbearance doesn't have auto loading. So I like grenade launchers to be auto loading. This one just doesn't have that. So I wanted to reload as fast as possible. So 2 Arc Loaders on the gloves and then a Firepower so that when we throw out our grenade, it'll create an orb of power for when we need it. And that is fixed now, so it's working. On the body, we're going to go with Concussive Dampener, or Harmonic Resistance, kind of whatever resistance you may need for whatever you're doing, plus a Charged Up. Charged Up is really good because it gives us additional armor charge stacks, which we're going to need for our Surge, which is going to be Arc. We want our Forbearance to do extra damage, so we're going to use our armor charges to proc that Arc weapon Surge. Plus, we've got a Harmonic Holster on here. I didn't find this to be very effective. For some reason, it wasn't like reloading it as fast as I thought it would. So you could definitely swap this out for a more recovery-based mod. I only had this in here because I was leveling up the crafted version when I was making this. And then in installation, picking up an orb of power reduces ability cooldown. Again, you could swap this if you need more healing. If you're in harder content, you could definitely swap some of this stuff out for whatever you need on the boots. And for the bond, we're going to go with Font of Restoration. So we're going to get a bonus to recovery. It's going to help get that rift back when we need to get out of or if we're in the rift, it's going to last forever. But if we need to get out of the rift, we want to be able to pop it again when we need it. So we want that rift to be back as fast as possible. Bomber reduces grenade cooldown when using class ability. So this is nice because, again, we're wanting to use our rift all the time. So every time we pop that rift, we're getting some grenade back. And then time dilation is just going to give us a longer armor charge duration. So all those things kind of work really nicely together. I would suggest a precision weapon in your kinetic slot. Because again, when we blind a group of enemies, if we kill one of them with a precision kill, it's going to send out a blinding explosion. So Wish Ender could be really good for that. Vergless Clerve, a Hung Jury or a Taraxipos. Anything that has kind of precision kill abilities would be really, really good. If you want to really mix it up and go nuts, try Cryosthesia. If you need a sidearm, it's a fun one. Wish Ender's good. You know, really whatever you like. This build isn't reliant on weapons, so you can really use whatever. Or I should say it isn't reliant on your kinetic weapon. You can use whatever you like. Very reliant on your arc energy weapon. So make sure you get one that you really like in there. I'm really having fun with Forbearance. And then for your heavy, you know, whatever you like. If you wanted to run like a scout in your kinetic, you could throw in like a Grand Overture in your heavy if you needed an exotic heavy, or even like a Leviathan's Breath if you wanted to throw in some Void in there. You know, if you got volatile, that could be really good. As far as the Ascendant mods, or the artifact mods, Arc doesn't really have anything beneficial specifically for Arc this season, but I'm sure we will next season. But you could definitely run, you know, Heavy Ammo Finder, or, you know, Bricks from Beyond could be good. Prismatic Transfer could be good. So you're helping your teammates who probably won't be running Arc when you pop that super. But really whatever you need in here is going to work. So just think about your choices there, whatever you like. And that's the build, folks. Here's the overview if you want to kind of take a screenshot and look at the different mods and check out my cool Sanguine Alchemist, Quantum Alchemist Warlock. I kind of went for like the sort of muddy red, bloody alchemist kind of look on that guy. And then, you know, weapon choices. But yeah, take a screenshot of that, whatever you like. As far as stats, I usually just go for resilience and discipline. You could turn back that discipline a bit if you want to spec into recovery more to get that well back faster, or excuse me, to get that rift back faster. So think about that. But I've got resilience, discipline, recovery, kind of in that order here. And then, yeah, as far as the cosmetics go, we've got this helmet. I put on the Ferric Ascent hood, kind of this weird like duckbill kind of looking thing. It's kind of interesting. I've got my channeling wraps. I like the little like wings on the end of those. They kind of look cool. And then of course we've got the Sanguine Alchemy robe. I love the little like pool of blood or whatever it is on the back there. Not sure about this shader. I might change it, but for now it's working. But you can whatever you like. And then we got the arc light boots on the boots. Just kind of like, I don't know, pretty basic. And then this weird plastic codpiece thing on the shoulder. Whatever that is, I don't know. I kind of like it. So that's the Quantum Alchemist, folks. If you like that build, consider subscribing and smashing that like button. Smash it like a double smashed baked potato with extra chives and then butter. And thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know in the comments what you think of this build. I'm sure there's some improvements that could be made, but let me know and go have fun. This one is a blast. So enjoy, and thanks for watching, Guardians. Until next time.